try that again. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Eternal Patch Breakdown? The Eternal Spoiler Breakdown. My name is Pojo. We are live, and we are talking today about an upcoming Eternal set. The Eternal Draft Championship has just finished up. Collector won. Congratulations to them in a pretty tense match versus Killer King. So there was some pretty fun stuff. I watched quite a bit of it and had a blast. And I'm really excited for not only like the big World Championship coming up, but also for the new set because, hey, new cards coming out. That's real exciting stuff, and that's the thing that we're all here for. I am here to review all of the new cards from the upcoming set, as well as to talk a little bit about what's happening with the upcoming set. So, to go into some details, May 18th is the release of Eternal Revelations. This is a big set, 200 plus new cards, and basically pre-orders will start for that on Thursday. The pre-order bonuses for this one are pretty sweet, which I will definitely show off them as we go, but it's going to be pretty neat. Actually, I think let's show this off right now because this is actually one of the cooler things about the new set is it's got some new sigils as part of the pre-order package, and they look absolutely gorgeous. So these are the new premium sigils. They have this like kind of metallic flair to them. I'm going to zoom in real close on one just so you can see, like, but like basically it's got this like kind of chrome diamond like alloy with a little bit of magic mixed in. It almost looks like you're looking into like a starry sky. I think this is just like a really nice look. And like overall, these are probably the prettiest sigils that Eternal has put out. They're really cool. They look gorgeous. They have kind of a really unique style to them, I think, that works really well. I just like to the art team on this one, just congratulations. That's like a pretty wild thing. If you pre-order, you also get some customs officers, some extra packs, you know, all the usual stuff, gems and packs and those types of things. I'll leave you to check out the announcement and see what you're buying at the actual store. But those premium sigils are pretty fantastic, and so we're certainly going to be purchasing just for that. But the new set itself has, of course, a lot of cards, and if there weren't a lot of cards, we would also probably not be buying into it. So let's talk a little bit about the cards that have been revealed so far on the stream. There have been some pretty wild ones. Also, the art here. We have Soul's Needle being completely corrupted by the Shadow Sea and appearing to crack. The Shadow Sea has reached the bastion at the top of this very large tower, meaning it's completely enveloped the world as we know it. So like the story of this particular world is coming to an end, similar to the world of Zolta. And I'm very curious to see exactly how that sort of shapes up in the lore, but it looks like it's going to be a pretty exciting time. In any case, let's talk about the cards. First up is Searing Strike. 2 cost, fire and time, slow spell, silence a unit and deal 2 damage to it. If it dies, you replenish 2 power. So there's a good mix of colors to accomplish a particular goal, like fire for a damage dealing removal spell, and time for the ability to sort of generate power, combined with fire and time's ability to just generate temporary power in combination with each other. So the basic idea here is like, you know, pretty simple in terms of like combining colors for a neat effect. At slow spell speed, this card is not as powerful as it could be at, of course, fast spell speed, but it also means that you're more likely to use it for its intended purpose, which is to actually get the 2 power back and then use it on something else. If you're using this at fast spell speed, oftentimes the extra 2 power isn't going to feel very fun because you're not going to have like another trick up. Whereas like if you're playing this early on in like a slow spell speed, you probably have a unit or something to follow up with. So the basic deal for this is that it's just a great option for Praxis aggro decks where basically you play something down on 1 to be really aggressive, and then when your opponent plays something to respond, you deal 2 damage to it. Maybe even if it's like a 0/4 or something like that, you can even attack into it with your 2/1 first, and then you deal damage to the unit, and when it dies, you replenish 2 power, which of course allows you to play another unit and continue that sort of aggro roll. That's a pretty wild thing to do, and if you have ways to like duplicate the card or do like other interesting shenanigans with it, it's possible to basically gain other interesting benefits and sort of Johnny synergies off of that card, provided you have interesting ways of duplicating it. But I'm not going to speculate too much on like that kind of stuff because we don't have anything I think that currently does that type of effect. Still, it's a really, really neat card. It's one that would be really, really fun to recur, and it's also a really interesting option just as like an interesting aggro tool. I'm curious to see how it synergizes with the rest of the set, but I think it already like sort of makes an interesting splash as a very pretty and interesting removal card that doesn't burn too many things down. There are certainly a lot of 3 health units that probably are going to be fine dealing with this. This is a great follow-up to an attack, which still makes it very viable even if you aren't getting to kill those units. Like if you're just trying to attack into blockers and deal enough damage to kill them and then get more stuff down, I think then you still get some value out of the card and some tempo out of the card due to the fact that you're, again, allowing it to replenish 2 power. And it silences the unit as well, so you can use it on larger targets and basically knock flyers out of the air, deal with cards that have really, really scary effects. This card gives you some toolkit options off of the time aspect of it, which is particularly important in the late game. If you draw this card, it's just not dead. You get to play it, get the silence, and the silence is effectively free, which is, yeah, that's a pretty good deal. Well, the silence is not effectively free because it does have to die to replenish the power. In any case, this is a really neat aggressive option, so like you get to do some pretty sweet stuff with it, and overall I think it's very, very fun. So yeah, it seems like a really, really strong start. We have a lot of good fire cards to show off, and the second of those is Hellfire Valkyrie, which is shown off on Direwolf's Twitter today. Hellfire Valkyrie is a 4/4 flyer that costs 5 and has double fire influence. When it attacks, it deals 3 damage to an enemy, or you draw a card, reduce the cost of it by 3, and at the end of your turn, discard it. So either you get a cheap card that you have to play that turn, or else you'll have to toss it, which you could maybe just enable some discard synergy or play around with echo cards, fate cards, that kind of stuff. That's always pretty exciting. But the main thing about this card is that it's a 4/4 flyer that also kills things when it attacks, which tempo-wise seems pretty sweet. If you can give this card charge off of just about anything, Speed Grafter, Centauri Raid Leader, Accelerate, Talir's, Sight, the Praxis Arcanum, then this card can open the play with an attack in the air that also deals damage to an enemy unit, which I think is one of the cheapest times that you can do it on a unit. Like if you stick this out on turn 5 off of a Praxis Arcanum, that's earlier than a Razan Greatbow Master, and you get to attack in and deal a bunch of damage. And if you don't have a target that's valid for it, and you don't want to hit the enemy face for 7, then you still get to like get card advantage out of the card, which is pretty wild as well. Generally, I think you want to remove things from the board more than you want to draw cards, but that's not always going to be the case. Some of the times you're going to want to just make sure that you're cycling through particular cards, getting rid of warp cards on top of your deck, doing all the like interesting sorting options. But Hellfire Valkyrie gives you a decent amount of tools for what it's doing. At 5 for a 4/4, it's not extremely efficiently statted, but it is very well statted for a 4/4 flyer, I would say. And it seems like a really strong Valkyrie that also synergizes really well with all of the Valkyrie stuff that we've already seen in the previous set. So overall, like this seems like a winner. It's definitely a really fun and interesting card to play at 5. It's relatively efficient. It is probably not broken to the point of extinction, but it definitely has some really, really cool options that works really well with charge, killer, anything that allows it to attack early and get some excellent benefits from that kind of play. Extra turns, yeah, you know, just anything where you can actually get the card to attack on the turn that it's played. If you play this card and you can't attack with it and it gets removed, then, you know, it's kind of a meh tempo play, and I think that's its central weakness in the tempo game, is that you basically just don't get anything out of it unless you actually have the ability to give it charge or killer, and also, or some way to protect it from removal, some way to discard your opponent's card so that they can't remove it before it attacks. But if you're in like a discard synergy, then this is a pretty good topper because your opponent's not going to have removal for it. There's a lot of different ways to sort of make some pretty exciting things happen with that. All right, the last big legendary is Dazia Azure Breaker. 7 cost 6/6 with Aegis and Voidbound. Pay 4 to stun an enemy unit, notably a soldier, also a mage, although that particular unit type does not matter. Summon, play a spell from your void. It gets void bound. So, 7 cost 6/6 with Aegis that immediately plays a spell from your void when you play it. That's good value for, like, money. You're already pretty happy with that. The central things about it are that it can't be reincarnated by other effects, which, thank goodness, I'm glad that that is on the card. It also doesn't necessarily... It also gives the spell void bound, so, like, if you don't have a spell that's in there, you can get into, like, some pretty rough spots there as well. But because the card gives you pretty immediate value, has a really good stat line for a 7 cost, and gives you that extra spell on a top... Oh, well, and it's very sticky. I mean, the immediate value from the extra spell is great, and you have the stickiness of Aegis combined with a pretty good stat line. This card just kind of does everything you want a card to do at 7. It plays on the board, probably removes something, or at least does something like absolutely insane. It could channel the Tempest, it could throw out like a Aid of the Huru, it could do any number of really big and scary things, but at the very least it's going to do something on the turn that it's played while also being like a really solid option that can get you into some pretty wild spaces. And then on top of it, it has the repeatable effect of paying 4 to stun an enemy unit, similar to like an Eye of Winter, except repeatable. So if you are in a situation where you just have infinite amounts of power, say you're playing like the New Tomorrow, like Martial Ironthorn, green, yellow, blue deck, or like you have some sort of like good, like infinite, like engine, anything where you have like 20 power or more, you're probably going to be locking down most to all of the board with this card, and so it's pretty likely to win you the game after the card is played, provided you have the power and the tools to sort of push things across. That combined with the Aegis, I think this card basically has all the tools to generate victory for you in larger control decks that play around spell focus. It's pretty fancy. I think the void-bound element of it is really nice because it means that the card doesn't come back and doesn't recur. This card is like on the scary side in control, so if this card is recurring or being brought back early, it will seal up a game pretty hard at that point. Like, this is not a thing you want to see Dark Returned or Grasping at Shadowed, so I think the Voidbound there is really beneficial. But yeah, like, it seems like a great card for any sort of like green, yellow, blue decks or blue-red decks that are going to do some like exciting stuff with spells. As far as like spell cards go and control cards go, it's one of the more exciting finishers for the list. I like everything about the card. I think the art of it is amazing. Everything about it just seems really strong, and the design is really good as well. Like, it's just an amazing card. So it does a lot of really sweet stuff. All right, last card for the day is a power card. So we have a look at the common power being introduced in this set. Let's go ahead and put that up. That is Rune of Illusion. Oh, and look how well that fit into the art there. I barely even have to expand it, and it'll be... There we go. Okay, so yeah, Rune of Illusion is our shadow power. It's depleted unless you have played a sigil this game, which, keep in mind, that is a sigil and not a non-power sigil, or like, so basically you can't play like seats and crests and stuff. This card does require that you have played some basic power before it is undepleted, but in a 2-power hand, if you're playing a bunch of other sigils, if you're playing monocolor, if you're playing even dual color stuff, you're pretty likely to actually get this card undepleted on turn 2 or 3. I would say turn 3 is most likely, since oftentimes you're going to want to play some kind of depleted power in a 2-color deck, or some kind of dual power in a 2-color deck. But the card has similar requirements to, say, that of a seat, except it's even more forgiving than a seat, because once you have played your sigil, the card is then just valid for as long as you like. The Amplify ability is to play Ghost Form, and that is something we have not seen, a power card with Amplify. So if you play this card, I don't know if you get to spend the power the turn that you play it. I'm pretty sure that you do. So if you play this on 5, you can get a Ghost Form immediately for 5. That's my guess anyways. It's possible that you won't be able to do that and you'll only get the Ghost Form on 6, but generally the way power works, it gives you the bonus on 5, so I think it should be pretty effective and do some pretty wild stuff. So yeah, odds are most of the cards in this cycle are going to have a similar Amplify. I would guess they are all going to be Amplify 5, similar to the Transmute cards, to the Cobalt Tactic type thing. Basically, cards that do something on 5 in power format is just kind of a running theme throughout the set, and this is something that you can do on 5. You can also do it on 10, you can do it on 15, and if you have just ridiculous amounts of power, you can do it on as many units as you like and just give everything Ghost Form. If you're wondering what Ghost Form is, it is a 1-cost card that gives lifesteal and unblockable to a single unit. So for each Amplify, you're getting 1 unit with unblockable and lifesteal, which is a decent way to push through a decent amount of damage. If you do this to even 1 big unit that's very, very scary, this card just kills. Like, it is going to stabilize your life total, it's going to deal a bunch of damage to your opponent, which potentially could be lethal. That is something that you're absolutely happy to play on 5, in addition to your power, particularly if you're not drawing any other cards that you really want to play, which is likely to be the case. But maybe if you want to play something actually on 5, Rune of Illusion might be something where you skip the Amplify, play the power, and then just immediately play that unit. So this being part of a 5-color cycle is, I would say, a guarantee. I would say it's also pretty likely to be a guarantee that those Amplifies are all Amplify 5, but not sure if that's true yet. You can also synergize this with cards like Dune Painter that reduce the cost of Amplify, as Darkest Tempest is noting in the chat. There are a lot of different cards that actually have Amplify synergy that are happy to have more ways to stack Amplify in a deck. If you want to play with Maveloft Hunter, or the Maveloft Elite rather, or something like any card that basically benefits from Maveloft Huntress, Maveloft Elite, the 1/1 that gets a 3/3 weapon. There are just a lot of different options that are very, very scary when they synergize with Amplify, that now have the option of amplifying power in addition to all the other things that they're amplifying. So you have a big, big Amplify sub-theme that's going to be opening up in this set, even more so than in Expedition. And oh yeah, this card is indeed fetchable by Realign the Stars. So you can pick up the card and do some pretty wild stuff with it there, and even get a little bit of fixing off that card, making that card a lot better for any of these types of interesting synergies. So yeah, ridiculous nonsense. This is a really, really interesting card. It could be a very powerful power. I think that the depleted aspect of it is relatively fair, and also means that you can't run too many non-basics and still have undepleted power, which is typically what you want out of power. Like, you want to have very little that is actually undepleted. You need some kinds of special circumstances, and you have to be able to choose your power fairly carefully for deck building. So, but the runes look like a great cycle, and they look like a really good step forward for this set in terms of promoting Amplify and promoting what I'm guessing will be some interesting new skills and abilities in the next set. All right, so that's the current set of cards so far, but I hope you're excited because all 4 of those designs were sweet as heck. We have some really, really wild... Amplify continuing to be a theme is really, really great. Amplify is one of the best things about the previous set. There's some really, really wild designs here. All of the cards that they have shown off so far are real winners for me, and I think that, from what we've seen so far, it's going to be a pretty exciting time. I'm pumped for it. I hope you all are too. That concludes, however, our Eternal spoiler breakdown for today. We'll be back with more spoilers for Revelations as they come, and we'll see y'all next time for more of that. Cheers.